Blizzard is about to end World of Warcraft as we know it. The new WoW 2.0 leak here from Bellular. I've talked about this already. I have a video out here with freaking tons of views talking about how the Great Reset is coming. And I've been talking about this for a while. I feel like where the story's going, I feel like the Silver Moon revamp and everything Blizzard has done is leading to what will feel like essentially a WoW 2.0. Now, a lot of people out there have said, oh, Cataclysm was 2.0 and Dragonflight was 3.0. We've already basically had resets, but I'm talking about a return to the basics. I really think we're going to have what feels like a reset on the game. We're back to the ground. We're back to fighting gnolls and trolls in the middle of forests and stuff like that. All the space shit and everything that's going on is going to be reset. And I think that's coming. Let's see what Bellular has to say about the 2.0 leak that he just came across.
Sponsored by Squarespace.
You've probably noticed that we fight a new flavor of mega powerful cosmic villain every expansion. They keep getting bigger and badder, and each new layer of power kind of feels like it weighs the setting down. This is obviously unsustainable. It has to change, and it seems Blizzard actually knows how to do it. And their answer is to kind of nuke everything. In effect, to clear the board. That's the point of World Soul Saga, and it very much begins in Midnight's patch 12.2. This all comes from our knowledge of the lore in Warcraft's production, plus the huge leak that has hit the community like a lightning bolt.
Yeah.
It almost sounds too good to be true. It includes a live-action Arthas show, an ARPG, a new real-time strategy game, the stuff of dreams.
If the live-action Arthas show, and we're going to talk a little bit more about that later today in stream, but if that thing happens, man, your boy's going to have his popcorn ready. I've been saying it for a long time. I felt like the story of Arthas is a story that can be told outside of World of Warcraft to people who have never played the game, know nothing about the game, but they'll be able to relate to the Arthas story. It's the fall of a prince, right? A prince who tried to pursue good things in a bad way and ends up falling to darkness. I think it's such a good story. It can easily be told outside of this game, and a lot of people would appreciate it.
Which absolutely makes it look fake. But here's the thing. There are parts of this leak that were not in the public domain. They were not public knowledge whenever the leak first happened many, many months ago in 2025. And the parts of the leak that line up are clearly not just a lucky guess, because it even gets a project code name right.
Yeah, that's the reason why this leak became such a big deal. Okay, this thing came out a while ago, and people just said, well, it's fucking AI, right? Nobody believes this shit anymore. These old screenshots, they don't work anymore because everyone just knows, well, somebody could make this with fucking AI in 2 seconds. So nobody believed it until this happened. Camelot turned out to be the actual internal code name of the Classic Plus that Blizzard's making. So when that came out, everyone remembered this freaking spreadsheet and was like, holy shit, this thing might be real. Because that Camelot name turned out to be actually true. Blizzard is using the Camelot name as the code name for Classic Plus internally. So for that to come out on this spreadsheet like freaking a couple months ago, everyone turned back around and said, oh shit, this is going to actually happen. By the way, Chronicles an anime series too? What the hell, man? If this stuff happens, oh my god.
But to get back to the story and the lore, we've got to get away from this leaked document and go to another part of the leak. Because buried deep in a comment section about, of all things pet battling, the leaker casually revealed the future of the World Soul Saga. They claim that a setting-defining event will happen at the end of the Midnight expansion. Something so big, it'll change the course of Warcraft forever. And they reveal the real conflict of the Last Titan expansion, by which I mean who we'll be fighting and why having a particular character as the end boss of the World Soul Saga makes perfect sense.
I don't know what he's going to say right now, but obviously if Aman'Thul is the final character, and this is why I say we could have a reset on the game, the man controls time. Okay, and if we're fighting the fucking Titan of Time, I'm sure he's going to pull some time-weaving bullshit during the fight. If he does that, and he tries to reverse time, say, to a time when we were weaker, right? You're fighting these powerful players who over 20-plus years have built up all this power. How could you defeat them? Well, maybe you reverse time during the fight and weaken them to a state of back when they were just these level 2 boys running around Elwynn Forest. Those would kind of be easy to squish, right? So maybe he fucks around with time a little bit during the fight, and we still end up defeating him. But in the process, we end up almost in a reset state of the game. That's what I keep saying. Like, hey, if you were going to reset the game in a way, fighting a guy who can control the state of time might be a good way to do it.
And after laying that out, they then claim that it's all set up for a WoW 2.0, a true
Yes, Constantine.
lore reset. And if that all sounds mad, I'd totally agree with you. But is it real? Well, it is highly likely at least parts of this are real. We recently did a video deep diving the leak's veracity, and a lot of stuff does check out. But today, we're here to talk about the lore of the IP that so many of us love. So be warned, there are spoilers. Not granular details, not dialogue of specific characters, but absolutely we're talking about huge structural plot beats from where we're at midnight through to the end of the saga, and then far into the future.
Here's the thing I've noticed. A lot of people who need a website don't have one, or they have one that doesn't
Squarespace. Squarespace is crazy, man. They spend a lot of money on ads.
It's because they just got overwhelmed.
They don't give your boy any money.
But today's sponsor, Squarespace.
Why aren't I a proper straight? What's going on? Why don't I get my Squarespace money?
Through building your own template.
Amanthul gonna make us a website? Yes. He's gonna make us a website.
That fit your aesthetic.
Force us to order shit from him.
Blank canvas, hoping for the best. You're guided by 20 years of design experience.
How did this thing leak? Maybe somebody from layoffs got mad. Yeah, maybe. Maybe somebody was getting laid off, leaked that shit. Could be.
It's all there in Squarespace.
Maybe somebody got paid to leak it too. Hey, you never know.
And it means that whenever customers hit your site, it looks professional. And when they buy something from you, Squarespace Payments handles it all cleanly. So,
wonderful.
You can build your site for free at squarespace.com/bellulargaming. And then when you're ready to go live, use code BellularGaming and that'll get you 10% off your first purchase of a site or domain.
Yeah, I'm not sponsored by Squarespace, but you can get a Starforge PC using code Samiccus at checkout, or get your G Fuel 30% off, up to 30% off using code Samiccus at checkout, or Smackin' Sunflower Seeds, use code Samiccus. Okay, there you go. There's my fucking real sponsors.
Here's how our story begins. Last year, a Reddit user called Fifth Yacht leaked an internal development roadmap for the future of the Warcraft franchise. It's pretty spicy, there's many goodies in there, but when we sleuthed through their account, we found way more prescient information. In this post about pet battling in 11.2's Koresh, user Zelmac shared their theory that Koresh wasn't initially intended as a patch zone. I
agree with this.
And that originally the Rootlands was set to be in the War Within.
Yeah.
But the Rootlands then became Harrendar, and Koresh was built from scratch under Chris Metzen's new World Soul Saga framing.
Yeah,
well,
makes
the
sense.
user, the leaker, Fifth Yacht, actually says that theory is correct. And then they revealed what happens next. Here's what they wrote. Quote, the next expansion will return to the Black Blood/World Soul, with Azeroth being the final titan and coming to life to cleanse the planet, including players.
Ooh.
The last expansion will wrap up with us having to kill Azeroth to restore her. Then, off to WoW 2.0.
Oh, wow. So this sounds like, if you remember the re-origination chamber and everything, that sounds like what that was going to do. It was supposed to cleanse the entire surface of Azeroth, including the players. Interesting. By cleansing the players, I don't think they'd mean like killing the entire player base, because that would be, got to make new characters or something. But cleansing like a reset of power? Yeah, I could see that happening.
Restore her. Then, off to WoW 2.0. Now that's a huge statement. I mean, what do we even make of any of that?
Dance Studio.
The good news is, quite a lot actually. So let's break it all down. Now, when this was posted, the next expansion in question was, of course, Midnight. And in Midnight, we can see that we have not strictly returned to the whole Black Blood story that was all through the War Within. But I believe the leaker was working with the context of the War Within's Black Blood storyline. We, of course, now know that that storyline has transformed into the Harrendar and World Soul story of Midnight. Right. You know, all the stuff with Alanhara, the Rift of All that stuff. So it does basically check out. Next, then, there's Azeroth. Azeroth as the final titan. Well, that's actually something that we've known the Titans themselves call her, and we know that since all the way back in Mists of Pandaria with the legendary Cloak quest. Basically what happens is, Rathian, being a bit of a mad bastard, consumes the heart of Lei Shen. Within the heart of Lei Shen was the essence of Amanthul. Amanthul, of course, being the big leader of the Titans. And upon consuming the heart, Rathian effectively was made a conduit for a message that was personally sent by Aman'Thul at the moment Sargeras defeated the Titan Pantheon. So, suffice it to say, that checks out. Now, the next thing is Azeroth coming to life to cleanse the world, and that including us. Of course, the idea of a Titan cleansing a planet is not really a surprising thing.
No.
Remember, of course, Algalon, the final boss of Ulduar. But in all of the leaks, this...
Yeah, re-origination chamber, that's what Algalon was doing. Had the power to completely cleanse the world. It's an interesting thought, though, to fight Azeroth. I didn't think we would do something like that. To me, she's like a good guy, right? Why are we going to fight Azeroth? And she's going to cleanse the planet? I have no idea. Maybe we find out she's going to do that. We try to stop her because we're afraid of what it means. And then in the process, we realize, hey, it's not a bad thing to cleanse the planet. I don't know.
Really was the big one. The idea that Azeroth would actually wake up.
Interesting thought.
Now, we've been told since the end of the Legion expansion that Azeroth was waking up, but it always felt like something in the far future.
Yeah,
well,
she is going to wake up. And one hint at that, God, I don't know if I could find it right now. I probably can't. But if you remember in the old art book that came with the War Within, there were like unused pieces of art that were meant for the War Within. And one of them showed like the player venturing through a giant cavern, and there's like a massive eye of like a feminine eye behind them. Like that's supposed to be Azeroth asleep. And if you remember, the War Within was an expansion that was basically finished out, and the entirety of the World Soul Saga was supposed to happen in the world with the War Within. And then Metzen came in and he was like, what the fuck did you guys do to my game? Why is Sylvanas doing all this shit? You guys completely messed up. I'm going to need 3 expansions to fix this shit. And so he split it all out. And then you got the World Soul Saga. So a lot of the stuff that was planned for the War Within never happened. But it's very clear that based on that art and things like that we've seen from the War Within that weren't used, Azeroth was supposed to become forefront. She was supposed to become front and center and was eventually going to wake up. That was going to be a thing. So it's definitely going to happen in The Last Titan. What it means when she wakes up, we'll see. Re-origination and shit, interesting.
Future is almost here, and the leak claims that this happens in the expansion we are playing right now, and that it is actually the final big epic moment of the Midnight expansion. But that's when it does get a bit tough, because apparently she's going to cleanse us, and I don't think that means unclogging our pores. I think it probably means burning us in some sort of grand fire. Maybe, maybe not. There's a few options here, actually. Of course, Xal'atath is on her way to the World Core literally as we speak. That's where Azeroth basically is imprisoned. So Xal'atath could corrupt Azeroth. Maybe then Sargeras' sword will have done something. Maybe shot some of that fell juice into the world and made Azeroth go loopy. But looking at the story as it's developing right now, I think the most realistic outcome is this. The Titans' mission to transform Azeroth into one of their own is going to succeed. And in the end, we just won't fit into the Titans' plans for Azeroth.
Oh, maybe that's why we have to kill her. Maybe the Titans win. I didn't think about that. Because if they win, yeah, we're probably going to have to kill her. Like, it's over for us, and we're just going to have to fight her. And in the meantime, in the time of fighting her, she does a cleanse or something. Yeah, I didn't think about it. That's why we could end up having to kill her, is that the Titans actually do get to her.
Though if I was a Titan, I wouldn't be so sure, because we don't even know if the Titans will fit into the vision of a titanic risen Azeroth. What if she wakes up and decides that the Titans are also a big old mess? That could absolutely happen. But based on what we can read in the leak and the surrounding lore context, it maybe seems like the Last Titan is a war against Azeroth herself. Maybe a corrupted Azeroth, who exactly knows, but perhaps more against her than it would be against, say, Xal'atath or the Titan Pantheon. And that would mean that the true meaning of the World Soul Saga is ultimately its end boss, the Last Titan. So let's see what that looks like, and why
I can see
there are no other good options.
The 3 faces of
let's assume all
Azeroth.
this stuff is real and that it is still Blizzard's plan. Do remember, of course, plans can change. But let's assume then that Azeroth is going to wake up and then try to cleanse the planet, including us, the players. Now, there are realistically 3 reasons why that would happen. The first is Xal'atath. As the story currently stands, she has the best chance of corrupting Azeroth and, yes, sending her on some kind of world-cleansing mission. Xal'atath has long claimed to want our world soul, but we've never been 100% sure why. And within that why could be a full explanation of what's contained within the leak. Though what we do know currently is the background Void lore effectively tells us that Xal'atath wants to use Azeroth's power to become the ultimate devourer, the thing that will consume all of creation until, as the prophet Velen saw in his early visions of the Void, she just becomes an endless nothing, eternally gnawing on itself. Which would be bad news for us.
Damn.
Now, the next option is the Titans.
Yeah, does Xal'atath win? I don't think Xal'atath's going to get what she wanted out of the World Soul. I could imagine the Titans winning and taking over the World Soul, and then we have to defeat it, and then bam, some kind of cleansing event happens or something like that. I think Xal'atath's end is going to come at some point in the last Titan. She's going to fail against the Titans. That's just what I think. Whatever her plan is, her mortality plan, her plan for Azeroth, I think eventually it flips and the Titans become the true bad guys. I mean, the last Titan, hey, I don't know, it's in the title.
And that's honestly not much better for the denizens of Azeroth. Yes, we don't trust them as much as we used to, but they were very recently working with us. And even if we're drawn into conflict, I think it is the case that the Titans aren't simply evil. To say that would be a reductive view of how they've been characterized so far. Think about it this way. Azeroth is called the final Titan in the lore, but the end of the World Soul saga is called the last Titan.
Yeah.
Let's think about those names.
I don't think the Titans are necessarily evil. They're just not they're not like the caretakers of the people that they were portrayed as very early in World of Warcraft. They were almost seen like godlike figures early in WoW, like they were here to protect us and take care of us kind of thing. And then we realized, no, that's not actually the case. Like our goals were kind of aligned in that we wanted to both protect Azeroth. The players want to protect Azeroth because it's where we live. Right? They don't want the world soul to die and something happen to planet. And the Titans want to protect her because they don't want her to be corrupted. And so we were aligned for a long time. The thing about the Titans is, okay, there isn't really any love for us. And once the goal is no longer aligned, or once we actually maybe go against them, they will kill us. That's the thing about the Titans. So it's not like an evil thing, like they're out just to kill things. It's like there's no real empathy for us. They will just kill us if it makes sense, because their end goal of no chaos, complete order, and everything else matters more to them than we do.
If the Titans turn Azeroth into one of them, then
they lie and you lie. Yes, they do lie a lot. We knew that.
Just like in the Void scenario, she would become the ultimate being of order. Nothing will be good enough in her eyes based on how beings of order tend to work in this verse. And that would mean that everything would have to be unmade and then remade into some perfect balanced system. That probably includes the Titans themselves, leading to a cosmos of perfect static order. Again, that's bad news for us, and in that case, the final Titan may ensure that she is the last Titan. Then there's the third option, and this is the darkest of them. It's that Azeroth emerges from the world as a traumatized monstrosity. Beings like Chimeras, the undreamt god, or, say, the uncontrollable superweapon Ulatek, who we're going to be dealing with in patch 12.1. Effectively, in this reading of the lore, Azeroth would be a nightmare-fueled, half-void-infected, half-order-infected world soul, so sick of bullshit and chaos that she just decides to cleanse everything with fire. Now, no matter what happens, you can see that any three of those are pretty rumbly, but
the Titans say they are a man of the people when they are not. You say you are a man of the people. Are you saying I'm a Titan? Maybe. Maybe I've been preparing you guys as a man of the people, been preparing the people for the ultimate betrayal all along. And that's the Titans are going to betray us. That's right. That's right. As a man of the people, of course I prepared the people.
With any of them,
that's what I do.
There is a way that we can save our world, save its soul, and bring Warcraft into its next era. And now that you've heard it all, I bet you've got an uncanny...
Hear me out. In the last Titan, the last patch of the last Titan is Murazan and Chromie send us back in time to fix the problem. I've said we could see like an Infinite Dragonflight play or something like that, definitely. I say like the remix editions of the game have definitely shown us that the Infinite Dragonflight and Chromie could definitely have the power to like reverse time or change history almost. So yeah, there could be some kind of play like that. Yeah, I have a video about that, as that Murazan could be very relevant towards the end of the last Titan.
Sense that you felt this coming, that one way or another,
Dragonblight's a thing,
always going to meet Azeroth. People have been talking about Azeroth waking up for nearly as long as we've known that she was in fact a sleeping world soul. Here's the community working out what she could look like 9 years ago. It's some pretty sick art. Here's another post worrying that whenever it happens, the planet will basically pop open like an egg and that all our characters will be deleted.
Right.
Certainly a valid fear. And even if this early lore exploration doesn't get the details right, it's clear that all these people knew this was coming. And not because they could magically tell the future, but because this story has been building since World of Warcraft launched. Let's go back to Chronicle. Chronicle told us in no uncertain terms that Azeroth was a world soul and would one day emerge as a fully grown titan. But that was just a confirmation of something that we'd actually already known. If you ask a Wrath of the Lich King veteran what they thought Azeroth was, they would give you something pretty close to the modern truth when you actually think about the lore. As an example, take a read of the Discs of Norgannon in Vanilla's Uldaman dungeon. You see, we discovered that earthen transformed into dwarves, but we didn't really know why they did that. Now, this is a mystery that was first resolved with the Old Gods and the Curse of Flesh. And then, of course, later with the Earthen of Khazalgar gaining free will under the influence of the World Soul.
Even humans, dwarfs and gnomes specifically they're Titan constructs that were curse of fleshed over time, and they became what they are. We know as them today. It is really cool that a lot of this lore about Azeroth does go back to the days of the Wrath of the Lich King. I remember Wrath of the Lich King days when I was getting into that lore. I definitely thought Azeroth was a Titan. And I was just like, well, she's a nascent Titan, and this is how Titans are made. Planets are like eggs for them, and they got to wait until they're ready to hatch. And that was kind of the lore that I understood about Azeroth at the time. Did I see her as like this world soul that can teeter on being a void thing or a Titan thing, and that she's not really a Titan yet, and the Titan need to almost like corrupt her into being a Titan? No, that lore is all new to me now.
Now, in the Storm Peaks, we experienced an immense 3-part revelation about the Titans. In the Tribunal of Ages, we discovered that Azeroth, the planet, was a host. But a host to what? We just didn't know back then. But even Yogg-Saron backed that up whenever we killed him, because when we did, he told us that the end of days was upon our miserable seedling. He called Azeroth a seedling. What was she going to grow up into then? What did he know? Of course, almost immediately after that in Ulduar, we face off against Algalon. We defeat him, and when we defeated him, we basically convinced him that being a native of Azeroth gave us some sort of special free will sauce, and then maybe we could take on the old god corruption ourselves.
Right.
And if that all seems a bit rumbly to you, basically Algalon is a type of being that we call a Constellar. They're deeply entwined with the Titans in ways we probably don't fully understand yet, but his job was to watch over things, and if stuff completely went foobar, if Azeroth got just totally corrupted, he basically could hit the big button that would re-originate the world, effectively fire off all the Titan machinery that we had discovered, and cleanse the whole thing, with everyone on it.
Yep.
Now, he wouldn't just do that willy-nilly. He would make a determination. He would make a calculation. And when he calculated that he would defeat us, but in fact we defeated him, he then realized, oh dear, what if my calculations aren't all correct?
Something in his formula was missing. And that was really like free will and the power of Azeroth in all the players. That's what it was. And to him, as a Titan construct, that shit just trips him out. It doesn't make any sense. Everything has like an order to it. It's good, it's bad, it's black, it's white. Free will is too unpredictable. And that's why he couldn't predict the outcome of what was going to happen to him when he fought us.
And that's why the world didn't end in the middle of Wrath of the Lich King. And that's a moment in a lore exploration that I think you really have to feel to get how Blizzard have been developing this lore for, I don't know, like 20 years.
Yeah.
Now you may then be thinking, why were we so special? Well, the good news is that over the years, the lore has circled ever closer to giving us a definitive answer to that question. Here's an example. In the Cataclysm expansion, Malfurion was on a bit of a side quest to save the world from a nightmare-spawned sleeping sickness whenever he discovered the Rift of On, this bizarre, half-dreamed place deep within the Emerald Dream. Now, when Malfurion was there, he sensed N'Zoth, but he also sensed something older, something primeval, and we now know what he felt was the remnant of Azeroth's true cradle within Harrendar. Cradle basically being where she just kind of bedded up and chilled out, let's just say. Canonically, that story happens during Cataclysm, though the next bit is something that we actually saw when we played Cataclysm, and that is Magni transforming into a diamond. He basically tried to commune with the world, turned into a diamond, everyone thought he was basically dead, but that was only until Thrall found his spirit, traveling in the deep places, talking with something. A bit weird. Now, by the time of Legion expansion, Magni is back in his feet, and he tells us what the recently released Warcraft Chronicle had made canon. And that was that Azeroth herself was a world soul. Then we were told repeatedly through Battle of Azeroth that the planet had a personality, that the planet was an entity, not just some artificial dead thing or a source of power. No, she was an actual being of some sort. And the due to Sargeras' actions at the end of Legion, she was in great peril. You may remember the famous voice lines about "Champion! The wounds!" All that stuff. Of course, in BFA, we patched her up, we thwarted a plan from N'Zoth, and then the next two expansions went back and forth on what Azeroth actually was. But then
it's funny how the clip literally clips through him. Blizzard does not care about clipping ever. You just clip right through him. One thing about the whole, Azeroth's wounds and that whole saga and everything, I feel like Metzen kind of went back away from that a little bit. I don't know, there was this whole, the Whisper of N'Zoth and the Diamond King has been made a pawn, and was that really Azeroth talking to him the whole time, or was it something else? We still don't really have an answer for that, and I don't know if we ever will, because I feel like Metzen kind of went away from that. And who knows, maybe the whole thing is well, that's an old god whisper, and we know the old gods can tell truths and lies. They could tell 1,000 different variations of the same story, and you're not sure which one's real. So that could also be the case. But I definitely feel like they were leaning into this storyline that, he wasn't really talking to Azeroth this whole time. And they kind of leaned away from it recently.
Soul Saga revealed the all-time maximum canon authentic lore for what Azeroth is. And that is some form of being at the center of creation. And we learn that if any one of the unbalanced forces of the cosmos was to control her, that it would basically be the end of everything. Right. But throughout all that lore development, no matter what iteration of the World Soul we were on, Azeroth was always one thing: sleeping. Now we know that she's going to wake up, and that when she does, she'll be controlled by, likely, one of those unbalanced powers, be it Xal'atath, be it the Titans.
Right.
And that will be when this long built-up threat and storyline actually becomes real. But through all those vast quantities of lore, there is actually a facet of Azeroth that had not been covered until recently, and that is her true name. Her true name is Alanhara. So whenever we fight Azeroth, if the leaks to be believed, the thing we're actually going to try and save is Alanhara. Because Alanhara is our world's true nature. And it's in saving Alanhara that we will see the seeds of a lore reset that will truly bring us into something that you could call WoW 2.0.
Yeah, I mean, if Blizzard did this, it wouldn't be the first MMO who's done this. Yes, everyone in chat has already said, Final Fantasy did this. Yeah, we know they did. They did a reset. And right now, Guild Wars with Guild Wars 3 and 2, they're doing it too. They basically reset their game. They give players the achievements and things basically credit for playing the past version of the game, but it's basically a reset. So WoW wouldn't be the first MMO to do this. But something like Doc was I'd quit the game. Maybe not. Moshpit says, I'd start over if we start before the fall of Lordaeron and the rise of Arthas. I'd love to play through the story with a modern cinematic. I agree. I've said this before, maybe WoW 2.0 could be a prequel, right? A go back to the days where Dalaran was on the ground and was this massive mage hub of the world, and Lordaeron was built up as a massive human kingdom, and all these other things, existed. I would think that would be awesome. I would love to see those in the game fully rendered. Gilneas was a proper kingdom that wasn't locked off from the world. There's so much cool lore that existed prior. A lot of it you play through in Warcraft 1 and 2 that you could see maybe in WoW realized in the MMO version. I think that'd be cool. I don't know if that's where they're going here, but I think that would be cool to see.
It's been a crazy ride to get here. We've got the early days of, say, the Tauren mythos and the Earth Mother.
After 22 years, I have too much invested in this game for them to wipe it. I don't think it'd be a complete wipe. I don't think you'd lose everything. I think it would almost be like a power gear reset almost on the game, and like maybe a story reset and a return to, you know, fighting around, riding horses around in forests and fighting, like I said, gnolls and shit like that. I think we could see some of that without you losing everything. I don't disagree. I don't think they're going to delete everyone's mounts and do shit like that, because I feel like that's probably a bit too risky for WoW. They could risk losing people in the process, but I definitely think like the story's gotten too cosmic, and where do you go after Titans? There's really nothing left. They could make some new shit up, but then you have the power creep just continuing. Like, what are we all going to become Azeroth level strength? Like every single individual player is going to be as strong as a planet? I don't think so. So that's why I see kind of like a power reset occurring.
And how the Earth Mother could cause earthquakes, to now where we have a world soul on the verge of waking up. This truly is Warcraft's central story, or at least one of the central pillars of the lore, finally getting to its natural conclusion. And that's why the World Soul Saga is as much closing WoW 1.0 as it is setting up WoW 2.0. So let's talk about what happens next. Because we've known since Metzen announced the saga that they're thinking about the future. And by the future, I mean WoW version 14 and onward. First, to do
the
this,
next 20
they need
years.
to reset the stakes. Each expansion tends to deliver a new layer of power. They keep on stacking, and eventually, by the end of it, we'll be fighting the planet itself.
Yeah.
That's getting a bit out of hand, but equally, it is something we do actually need to deal with. So it seems Blizzard is going to nuke all of it. How would they do that?
Yeah, we're just going to become too powerful. Like, it doesn't make sense anymore. If we become so powerful we could fight Titans, then that means, like, you should be able to walk in dead mines, you fart, and the entire thing is cleared. Like, because that's the power level we're going to be at this point. Like, the rest of Azeroth just becomes irrelevant. If you can kill world souls and Titans, there's no real threat to anything that exists on the planet anymore. And so that's why it wouldn't make sense. So that's why it does need some kind of story/power reset.
Well, they would do it with Azeroth, or, like I said, Alanhara, her real name. Now, behind every top-level villain's motivations was Azeroth. Sargeras wanted to destroy her. The old gods wanted to create a dark titan out of her. The titans, of course, wanted her to wake up as a new Pantheon member who'd be able to help them in their grand old plan to order the cosmos just as they see fit. And for the longest time, we only understood Azeroth through the motivations of those villainous characters. And now they're all on a collision course for the World Soul. Xal'atath is almost there. The Titans are likely on their way back, and Sargeras may even be with them. In our war to cleanse Azeroth, there will be casualties. And if you want to reset the power scaling in your universe, well, killing off all your gods is a good way to do that. And now we can actually see a power that could credibly kill off the gods. That power would be an Ascendant World Soul. At first,
one interesting thing about a reset, if it does happen too, is yes, if Azeroth the World Soul is like gone, like whatever, she has her final moment, disappears into the ether, I have no idea what happens, we kill her off, there would be no reason for all the most powerful beings in the cosmos to come to Azeroth anymore. That's why they've all been coming all along. That's why they've all shown up. That's why Azeroth's been so important. That's why we keep fighting these cosmic level things. Like everyone jokes like, oh yeah, there's never peace in Azeroth because always the next thing is coming to destroy us. That's always been the case because of the power or the potential power of Azeroth, the World Soul. Once that's gone, yeah, we could have a reset because we won't have to deal with that kind of shit anymore. It just becomes like local issues again. And it wouldn't make sense for us to be as powerful as we are now anymore.
Corrupted, ordered, or insane. But perhaps then we cleanse her because we have to cleanse her. There's no other choice. What Alanhara offers, then, is the truth that no one was really able to see. That she was more powerful, perhaps, than any force that could have controlled her. And in that moment, she may indeed wipe the board. It at least seems to me that is the lore implication of all the leaks that have came out. And it's when a credible picture of what comes next actually snaps into focus for me, at least personally. right? A setting cleared of massive powers. No more titans or void lords vying for domination. No more, oh, this is the purple expansion, this is the green expansion, oh, it's the
Right.
void, it's the fel, where it all just starts to feel really pedestrian and disconnected from the experience of our characters in the world that we love. And to step outside of the lore side, what I'm really talking about here is finally an opportunity to tell entirely new stories in Azeroth that are rooted in the lore of Azeroth. And if you ask me, that sounds exactly like a spiritual WoW
a reset.
2.0. Not putting it into Unreal Engine or some gimmick like that, but an actual change to the status quo that signals a fresh beginning.
Yeah, I don't think we'd get a Unreal Engine revamp of WoW. If we ever got a revamp of the zones in WoW, we've already seen what it looks like. It's Silvermoon. It's the upper half of the Eastern Kingdoms. It's the new Eastern Plaguelands. It's the new Dead Scar. Like, these areas have all been brought up to modern fidelity in World of Warcraft. It's not a complete remake in Unreal Engine. It's simply an up-res and kind of rebuild of the entire old world. That's what I would imagine.
And after all of the crud that I think we've accumulated over the years within the lore, that may indeed be a healthy thing. Provided, of course, Blizzard is able to remember the essential intrinsic properties of the Warcraft IP that drew people towards it all those years ago and for so many years since. Because if WoW 2.0 looks like generic, easy-to-consume fantasy slop, I think it will die on the vine. If, however, it can reestablish itself as a true secondary world that actually is treated seriously, then we could be off in a good direction, especially if that's backed up by the likes of, say, the other things that are there in those leaks, like another RTS, a Arthas game, maybe stuff established in Netflix series. Now, earlier on in the video, I mentioned one of the horrors that came out of the Rift of Aln, this Ulatek. Well, Ulatek is a core part of WoW's next patch. Ulatek seems really, really cool, and if you want to get all of the lore you need for that, simply watch this video next.
Yeah, we'll see. I've been talking about this, and I totally agree with it. I think we are going to get that, in essence, reset of WoW after the last Titan. What that looks like and everything, how hard do they reset it, I'm not exactly sure yet, but I definitely think it's coming. Nice video overall from Bellular.